Good morning, everybody. This is Jessie at Grace and Truth Ministries, and today I'm going to walk you through how I set up my Bible study and how I study. So I'm actually going to show you how I set up my morning time, and then I'm going to just kind of walk through a really short study today. I'm in Psalms, and so I thought that would be a good opportunity to just kind of share with you guys what it looks like for me. This type of study that I'm doing is kind of, for the lack of a better word, it progresses. I don't study the same way every single season or whatever. It just kind of depends on where I'm at with my learning and what my learning needs are and what the Lord is guiding me towards. So just keep that in mind as you're going through this. Your study time is a relationship, and I think that's the really, really important part to understand. You are developing a relationship with God, so when you sit down and you do your studies will just reflect where you are in that relationship, and I think that's the really cool part about studying the Bible. So, but I did get a lot of questions or people asking for me to kind of go through a walkthrough with you guys. So I thought, you know what, that's a great idea. So I'm going to share what my resources are, and how I use them. And I'm just going to dig in because otherwise I'm just going to keep talking. So, okay, this is just one of those a cookbook stand or whatever. It's got a little thing back here. This is what I use for putting my primary the Bible that I'm using to study from. So I pick a Bible each year, and I will a different study Bible, and I will use that one throughout the year for my studies. This year I'm doing a women's study Bible. I really wanted to better understand my relationship with God in my womanhood, what it means to be a mother, this kind of stuff. So that's why I picked that book, and I am that study Bible, and I am doing, I think I'm on Psalm 3 today, which is right here. So this will sit here, and then that way I can read all the commentary, any kind of footnotes that there is, any cross-referenced verses, that kind of thing. And then by surprise, my husband got me this Bible for Christmas, and so this is the Jesus Bible. So I'm actually using both of these Bibles as study Bibles for the year. So I will also pull this one out and find out what it says regarding Psalms, and I'm just going to open to the page. And so that's partially how I set myself up, is to be have my resources ready to go, and I will kind of put this to the side because when I'm ready to read it, I will do that. And then there's one more resource that is specifically for Psalms. I found this at the thrift store. Mind you, I don't really know much about this author, so to be fair, it is a commentary, but I read it with extreme discernment, meaning I don't I try to take it with a grain of salt. The translation is his personal interpretation of the words, and so I try to keep that in mind when I'm looking at when he gives a definition of something, or that kind of thing. But he does a pretty good job at showing the Hebrew perspective on the poetry, and that kind of thing. So that's why I've been using this, and each section has its here's the psalm, but then he's got all these footnotes for it, and so I'll go through and I'll read that as well, and see if there's anything I want to add. So as a reminder, the reason why I'm doing all this stuff is because my personal relationship with the Word is I love studying God's Word. I love learning. I really just love learning as much as I possibly can about the Bible, about God's Word, about what He wants us to know. I like hearing other people's insights. I just love digging into it. And so anytime I learn something new about the Bible, it goes in this Bible right here. So this Bible is like I wonder if I can, here, I'll go like that. Oops, sorry, I knew that was going to happen. I think I told you guys that I need a new stand. But this Bible is a collection of my notes over the course of I think 3 or 4 years of Bible study. So this section right here, see all these little arrows? I got most of this stuff from the Psalm from this year. So that's, if it gives you an understanding, I didn't have a lot of notes in the Psalms. So I've been really enjoying just digging in and gathering more information. So that's what I will use for the primary part of my study. Then over here, I have this guy, and this is my really big, deep notes that I don't want to just have in my Bible. That's where I have these annotated things right here as references to go to the notebooks. These are the notebooks themselves. The orange one, the blue one's my sermon notes, and then the orange one is my current study notes. So if there is something specifically that I want to learn more about, then I'll put it in here, and I will just notate the page number that it's on in my Bible. I keep this with me. I'm probably not going to use it for the Psalms because I do have plenty of space for writing, and I don't think I'm going to get really that deep into them. But that's what that resource is for. And then this is my what do I call it? My God Speaks Bible. So as I'm reading, if God really sends me a deep resonant message about a certain psalm or a certain passage, or it just hits home, sometimes when I'm praying, he'll give me words of wisdom from the Bible. Sometimes there might be a situation that's going on that is just really valuable. I will log it in this Bible as a record of how God has spoken to me through prayer, and that kind of thing, just so that when I can look back at it. Oh, here's a great example. I'll see if I can get okay. So I don't want to show. Okay, I'm just going to go like this. I don't want to show the circumstances of that thing, but okay, so this is Titus. This is Titus. And these are 2 separate years, okay? That's 22, that was 23. I had a season where I was being persecuted or just being attacked a little bit. This happened to be by a coworker, a former employee. I was a director of a daycare, and it got really, really bad, really bad. She was aggressive. We had to call the police on her. All sorts of crazy stuff happened. And it didn't stop there. She just kept going. She, I think she definitely had, there's not many people that I would say that I've met in my life that have a spirit, a demonic presence. This woman did. It was very, very apparent. All that said, though, so that was happening, and then while that was happening, I had asked God for a message, and he had me read Titus in this season of persecution, and it was very helpful, and so I put that on this page. Well, then, a year later, I had a very similar type of persecution occur that I needed to navigate, and I don't want to share that situation, but he referred me back to Titus. The timing of it was really amazing, and that's the thing, is that when you are keeping a log of the prayers that God is giving you, of the messages he's giving you, you're going to see themes, and you're going to see things that resonate between you and him. And so having that prayer journal through the Bible, for me, is so rich and so important. So I always keep that on hand. It's not like I'm using these two things. They're just here. They're just here just in case. But the things that I will use will be my study Bibles. Okay, so then the other thing that I use that people were wondering about is my pens. And I think I'm an office supply geek too, so I get it. I like it. So this is my go-to black pen. It's a Pilot G2. I just really like it. It's one of the cheaper ones. It's not like a super fancy one, but I love the way the ink flows, and I love the way it writes. It works really well for my handwriting style. So I always have like Pilot G2s everywhere. I'm just committed to them. They don't bleed through the pages, which is nice. These pages are pretty thick, so that's not really where you're going to see it. But like in my other Bible, my travel Bible, like it doesn't really bleed through the pages. So, and this is a thinner page, so you can kind of see it gives a little bit of shadowing, but not a bad one. So that's why I really like it. And then my Bible has categories that I use for sorry, I'm gonna have to cut that part. Let's just do this. You know what, I'm just gonna take that page out. I don't even like it. It happens all the time. Okay, my Bible has categories that I use for keeping track of like the themes that I'm interested in. So these are specific to me. It's, you know, you might have different ones that you're into, but like we really are musicians, and so music is one of the things that's important to us. I'm a homemaker, so I wanted one that kind of references to that. We homestead. I love plants, so like somebody else may not like plants and they don't want that, but I do. So those are kind of the categories I put in. And then those are these markers right here that I use for highlighting and keeping my verses related to the categories are in this cup right here. And I have two different types just because this is what I had. I can tell you what I prefer. What I prefer is the Tombows. I love the Tombows. They're my favorite marker to use for highlighting for everyday use. But I had to do like a combination because Tombows come in a pack of, I don't know, like 5 or 6 markers. But I got these Staedtlers. Oh, look, all the letterings came off of them. I don't even know if there's one that has any lettering. Oh, this one does. These Staedtlers. Can you see that? I feel like that. There we go. These ones are they're like less expensive, and they come in a bigger pack. So I just used a combination of those markers when I was making my list here. But I do prefer those. And then I have, I usually keep my black ones like separate because I use that more. But these ones are my absolute favorite. These are Faber castels, and I only use these for like my fancy writings, like if I want to be real fancy, because these I don't want them to be used up because they are a little more expensive. But the reason why I like these better is because the tip is like, it gives that brush effect a little bit better than the Tombows or the Staedtlers. And I say that very like, what's the word? With hesitation, because everybody's handwriting is a little bit different. And so like if you are into lettering, you may find the Tombows work really well for you, and you don't really like the Faber castels, and it's a very personal choice. Like for me, the way my handwriting is, the Faber castels are my favorite. They're a little bit more tight in their brush flow, which is important for me because I have really big handwriting. So if it's a little bit tighter, it just seems to work better. Okay, so now that you have the way I set everything up and how I do everything, now I can walk you through just like the verse, and I can talk about, you know, what it is that what it is that I find and how I look through it. And I'll just do a study with you. And if you don't want to sit and watch the study, you don't have to. You could stop the video now because you got all the information. But if you want to actually see like how I study, that's cool. You can sit with me and do it. Okay, so I actually lied. I didn't lie, I forgot. But I'm not in Psalm 3. I finished that one yesterday. I'm in Psalm 4. So I'm going to just turn the page. So the first thing I do when I'm studying is I look to see, like, is there any commentary specific to that psalm? Because sometimes there's not. In this case, there is. It's for Psalm 4:4. It says, the poet's faith and trust in God is expressed in this psalm. The sacrifices of the righteousness are those offered with the right attitude, and the assurance of God's protection comes to those who put their trust in Him. And He is the true source of the security in an insecure world. And I think that's like beautiful and awesome. But I'm going to read the content. I'm going to read the verses first before I decide if I actually want to write that in there. So I'm going to go ahead and just read it with you guys. And it's Psalm 4. This is the CSB version, I believe, Christian Standard Bible. Most of my Bibles are the NKJV, but this one has got so much space, and that's why I have this one. So, a night prayer. Answer me when I call. God who vindicates me, you freed me from affliction. To be gracious to me and hear my prayer. How long, exalted ones, will my honor be insulted? How long will you love what is worthless and pursue a lie? Oof. Know that the Lord has set apart the faithful for Himself. The Lord will hear when I call Him. Be angry and do not sin. On your bed, reflect in your heart and be still. Others offer sacrifices in righteousness and trust in the Lord. Many are asking, who can show us anything good? Let the light of your face shine on us, God, Lord. You have put more joy in my heart than they have when their grain and new wine abound. I will both lie down and sleep in peace, for you alone, God, make me live in safety. So the first thing that I think about when I read this is I want to know very specifically that this is a night prayer. So sometimes when you see these prayers, there's sort of like a skeleton, or there's a framework that's important for us to understand that we can value in our life. So the first thing I'm going to look at is, what is the framework of this prayer? So it starts with giving thanks and awareness for God, for what God has done. You freed me from affliction, you're gracious to me, and you hear my prayer. So it's sort of like starts with a thankful starts with thanks and praise, and I think that's important. And then it says, how long, exalted ones, will my honor be insulted? How long will you love what is worthless and pursue a lie? Know that the Lord has set apart the faithful for Himself. The Lord will hear when I call Him. Be angry and do not sin. On your bed, reflect in your heart and be still. Okay, so I think that's a really important thing right there. So I'm actually going to use my marker that I have for what's wisdom, or what's like a strong truth, and I'm going to highlight that right there, because I think that's a key piece of the verse. So on your bed, reflect in your heart and be still, offer sacrifices in righteousness and trust in the Lord. So I think what they're saying here is reflect on your actions and reflect on the Lord. And then the offer sacrifices and trust. I mean, we don't do the sacrifices anymore. That obviously Jesus is the ultimate sacrifice. He paid the price for us. But I think it is important to see, like, what areas of our life can we sanctify. So I'm going to put, what areas can we sanctify? And then many are asking, who can show us anything good? Let the light of your face shine on us, Lord. So that's just a plea of like having His grace, asking for Him to have asking for him to have favor on us. You have put more joy in my heart than they have when the grain and new wine abound. I will both lie down and sleep in peace, for you alone make me live in safety. So this part is just showing an assurance, like giving God your assurance and faith, knowing he's in control. And I think that's like, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put this, and I'm still going to use the color for wisdom because I feel like that is what this is all about. And I'm going to highlight this because this is, to me, a template. And I'm going to put next to it a nighttime, well, yeah, I'll use this. A nighttime prayer template. And so now I know, like, that's what I'm referencing here. It's sort of like, what are these things? Well, this is like when I'm sitting down for bed at night, this psalm is telling me how I can framework my thinking and my prayers to the Lord. So now that I have that done, because that's like my takeaway from this, or at least today, what I'm thinking about it. Now I'm going to go back to my resources and I'm going to see what is their perspective, what is their takeaway. So I read to you guys before, the sacrifices of righteousness are those offered with the right attitude. The assurance of God's protection comes to those who put trust in him, and that he's the true source of security in the world. So I am going to grab my Post-its, which I should have done that before I started the video. I'm sorry, you guys. Sometimes I forget the little things. I've got these little guys, but I need the bigger ones. No, not in there. So Post-its are like, what's the word? They're like gold to me. I have like 1 billion of them because, oh look, patient in affliction. I have 1 billion of them because I use them all the time. It's like, they're my mainstay of my life. Okay, so I want to put on this Post-it that it's sanctification with the right attitude, I think. That's the message that person kind of was expressing. So I looked at this, I got that information, and now I'm going to use my other resources and just review that quickly. And I have here on Psalm 4, let's see, that's 3. Oh, Selah. It's important, I think, to know that there is a Selah there, because Selah is one of those words that's in showing that it's sort of like a musical pause, or it's a musical notation. They don't know what the actual, what it actually represents, but it is a musical notation. So this is the section of this Bible that is related to this psalm. And here it says, David described circumstances that warrant feelings of trembling or anger. He had been personally injured because of wicked people who had actively sought to hear and tell lies. His angst is thus a natural, understandable, and even commendable response to the malice and the slander. Jesus himself expressed appropriate anger when he made a whip and cleared out the temple of the courts. Therefore, God's people must learn to express anger over the things that anger God, yet do so in a manner that does not give the devil a foothold, nor give way to prolonged bitterness. And I think that is an important thing to recognize, is sometimes our anger is not from God, and sometimes our anger is just from the devil or from our personal conflicts. but God understands a righteous anger, and there are things that we're going to be angry about that he agrees to. So too often the balances are tipped, and anger is either dishonestly suppressed or abusively expressed. Very rarely do people strike the balance that exemplifies David's command not to sin despite the injustice he felt. Perhaps God's people would do well to follow David's example, to be quiet and ponder the reason for feeling of anger. Then, having trusted that the Lord's approval is sufficient, speak openly to God about these offenses instead of looking for personal revenge. And so that's the part I'm going to put in here. I'm going to make another note, and it's just going to say, give quiet pondering to the reason of anger, and then I'm going to put God is sufficient, trust in him. So that's another piece of this, when you're feeling the anger, which, that's a little bit different than the template for a nighttime prayer. This is more specifically about anger. And so I'm going to put right here, anger, so that I know that that's kind of what it's related to. And then the last thing I'm going to do, and since this Post-it is kind of just filled, I'm just going to stick it right here for now. I might move it. We'll see. But the last thing I'm going to do is go to this guy, which the footnotes are a lot heavier here. So I will go through it with you guys, and I'll read a little bit of it too, so you understand what this author's focus is. He's a lot on the Hebrew. So it says the Hebrew menetiza probably means leader, which is the person directing the music. So he's showing for the lead player, that's who this psalm is written towards. The identification is no more than a guess. Then it says, when I called you out, answer me. So it's just like I was saying before. He says this phrase is an identifying formula for the psalm. So it's telling us that David is using a specific way of approaching the throne in his words and in his language. Yeah, he says that again here, that it's a formula for supplication. He brings out that the enemies are mocking him. And then here he talks specifically about the Hebrew, which this is why I liked this book, because to me that's interesting. So he says, the syntax of this entire verse is choppy, and the semantic logic between it remains somewhat obscure. In fact, the text as we have it reflects what the psalmist wrote. The sense would be as follows: the auditors of the poem are exhorted to tremble as the act of conscience that will dissuade them from the acts of transgression, then communicate with themselves the solitude of their beds and speak no more. The verse thus moves from the state of troubled agitation to silence at the end. So you got to think too, this is like a musical score, right? This is a piece of music, which I always think is important to remember and think about, from an auditory perspective, what would that look like? At the beginning of it, if they're quaking and they're speaking about anger, it might actually even sound very loud and very aggressive in its cadence and its tone and its rhythm. And then later on, as it's talking about being quiet and knowing that God, having faith and assurance of God's justice and his righteousness and just being at peace with your anger, the song itself may move towards a more silent, peaceful ending. So I think sometimes we miss that when we just read, which is why I like that this particular author talks about cadences and rhythms and stuff like that in the Hebrew. Here's an interesting note. The spelling of the verb deviates from the normative when it talks to lifting up your face. Where is that? Let your light face shine upon us. No, yeah, right there. It's different than the normal Hebrew verb, and I think that's an important distinction. because it's talking about lifting up to the divine favor. So it's kind of an interesting deviation there. Okay. Yeah, and this last comment, I'll read that to you. It says, the prayer for tranquil sleep at the end of the psalm may be a deliberate counterpoint to the image of those who are angry, then speak to themselves on their beds. Restful sleep as a restoration is a manifestation of the speaker's trust in God's protection is a recurrent motive in the Psalms. It is the precise antithesis to the tormented blank nights without rest, which Job speaks. And that, I think, is a really interesting comment. And I'm not necessarily going to put that in my Bible here. It's just an interesting comment to process. Like, that is true. The rest that David has and the assurance of his faith is definitely contrasted with what Job feels. Like, I think Job's experiences and David's might be, I feel personally like Job had it a little harder than David, but that said, their emotions are just reflected differently. And so I think it is important to notice that, and to know in your Bible that when you are afflicted and when you're angry or when you're stressed or when you just need like the peace of the Lord and the peace of the understanding, going to the Psalms is good, because that's where you're going to read about like crazy levels of anger and persecution and strife. But it almost always ends with this: I will both lie down and sleep in peace, for you alone, Lord, make me live in safety. So I think that is such a key verse right there. I truly love it. I think it's an important part to know, to understand that when we seek God, he gives us that peace. And so that's how I will end my study time, is I will end it in a prayer. And I'm just gonna put it in this journal, prayer journal, so that, or prayer Bible, my God Speaks Bible. It doesn't really have a good name, I guess, but that way you'll see what I mean when I'm using it and what it looks like for me. So let me just get to the page, and I just unfortunately want to do that off screen, off camera, because for privacy purposes I don't want to share all these prayers. But okay, all right, so here we go. So this is what I'm going to do. So what I will do is I will highlight the section that I'm praying about, and then I will put my prayer right here. And I'm just going to use it. Honestly, in this Bible, it doesn't matter what color I use, but I'm going to highlight this part. And then I'm going to write my heading. And I like to date these things, because for me it's that part's important. When did God share this information with me? When did I come to that feeling? This is a huge this is so big, but it's a date stamper, and I don't even remember where I got it from. I can try to remember. If any of y'all have the same thing, you can tell me, but I don't use it every single day. Like I said, this is more of just circumstantial. Okay, so I'm gonna put the date stamp down at the bottom. Can you see that? There we go. And then I'm just gonna put my prayer there as it relates to the message that I'm receiving. Okay, so here I just prayed, and this is kind of one that is one I would be comfortable sharing with you. So it says, Lord, thank you for your words. Thank you for showing me that I can rest in assurance and faith in all things. You are teaching me that it's okay to discuss my anger with you, but it's so important to leave it in your hands and to not carry it out from one day to the next. Thank you for this grace and wisdom. I love you. Amen. Okay, so that's how I would close my Bible study. Like if there was a prayer, or sometimes I need extra time just to meditate on the word that I read, and so then I will just do that. I'll be self-reflective, and I'll think about, what it was that God had for me. If I felt like this right here was like a super important thing for me to remember in the future, I might put a tab on the top that just says like a nighttime prayer method, or releasing anger or whatever, and then I would be able to come back to that. I don't know if I actually want to do that or not, so I think I'm just gonna put like a little post-it there for now and just think on it, and then if I decide I want to add a tab later, I will. But yeah, so that is how I will study. That's literally it. Sometimes there might be a word that I'm looking for more information on, or maybe it stands out to me like in this case, God who vindicates me. Like I might actually look up the word vindicates and just see how that's used in the scripture and in the context. And if that's the case, I use this app. It's called the Logos app. I'll try to put a picture of it or a link to it in the description box. I can't show it to you right now because I'm using my phone to do the recording. But the Logos app basically just has like all the definitions, all the commentary, all the locations. So it's like the Strong Concordance, except it's a virtual app. It's online, so it's easier to just quick access. And I like using that, so I might put that in the app and then dig a little deeper in there too. But yeah, I hope that helps you guys to kind of see what a study looks like. This is definitely like a higher level boring. Like I don't find study boring. I love studying the word, but it is definitely a dedication and a process. And I have to say, like, I didn't start studying like this when I was originally studying God's word. I was just reading it, and then if there was something that stood out, I might make a little note. But I didn't really use any sort of Bible study Bibles. The one that I did use that I recommend that everybody starts with, if you're new to faith, is this like the Life Application Study Bible. This is so nice because it's a very generalized Bible, and it just it has applications like specifically to what it's like life, to how you would feel about something, how it would apply to your life. And so this was the very first Bible that I ever used. And see here, it's got some things about this prayer too, and it says things that are a little bit different. They're a little more basic, like we too can be confident in God that he listens to our prayers. So it gives those kind of like returns it back to us so that we understand it. When you have your prayers bouncing off the ceiling, remember that as a believer, you've been set apart by God and he loves you, he hears you. And then it goes and talks about like worship in David's day includes animal sacrifices. There's specific rules to the sacrifices. So it's kind of like a friendly, like new believers level of understanding, which is what I really, really, really like about this Life Application Bible. And I feel like it is truly like, if you're new to the word, this is the Tyndale one. If you're new to the word, this is seriously a great resource. I got this Bible when I was in college, and I didn't read it right away. I read it later in life, but I always had it, and it's such a great resource. I definitely recommend it to people. So yeah, that is legitimately, that's everything, guys. Thank you for sticking with me. I hope this was helpful. I hope this like answered your questions. The only thing I can say otherwise is that I did not dig into like a deep dive in my notebook studies in this guy, and that's okay. He's just here like for a just in case type of situation. So I have these. Sometimes your study Bibles will have like a little bit extra commentaries, and then you might do like a side study, because like I don't know why this is like this. If anybody can explain this about this Bible for me, I would love to know. If you have this women's study Bible, please help me understand. They put these boxes in, but they don't always relate to like what it is that you're reading on that day. Like here, the names of God, images of God. So, and that's all like super helpful information, and I seriously like, I want this, but contextually it doesn't relate. And so then I have to like think about, okay, where am I going to put this? If I put it in my notebook, how am I going to know what page to put it back to? So I don't know if there's like, I tried to find an index for these boxes, and I can't find one. So if anybody knows of any way to like, where they have a list of all those boxes anywhere, like please let me know, because it's driving me nuts, because I just want to go through and study all the boxes, and now I'm like, really? Now I have to do a study on the boxes? It would be so much easier if they just had like a list that told me, so that when I'm studying something, I can look at the list and see when I want to read the content in the box. But they don't. So anyways, maybe it's just in the index. Might be. Okay. I digress. I'm sorry. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you had gotten some inspiration for your own studies. I hope this was helpful. If it wasn't, I appreciate you just watching, and that I was able to answer questions. And yeah, have a great day, you guys. I love you. Bye-bye.